Now, the zero to hero trope is pretty popular within the world of video games, and it's pretty easy to see why. With things like level ups and weapon upgrades making up the mechanics of most titles out there, a story of a nobody turning into the savior of the world seems to synergize pretty well with basic gameplay elements. Not to mention, everybody loves a good underdog story. But what if becoming a hero wasn't enough for you? What if you had your ambition set a little higher? After all, if you've maxed out your character's power and made them an invincible demigod, the next logical step would be to aim for actual godhood. And that's what we're here to talk about today, as I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video game protagonists so powerful they became gods. Number 10. The Hero of KVATCH, The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. The protagonist of The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, the Hero of KVATCH, is a busy person. During the course of the game, they become the leaders of several influential factions, save the world from numerous threats, and watch as their best buddy Martin Septim becomes the Emperor of Cyrodiil. And with all of these accomplishments, it feels obvious that this character would be recognized as more than a mere mortal, and this is exactly what happens in Oblivion's DLC, Shivering Isles. The DLC has our hero travel to the realm of the Daedric Prince of Madras, Sheogorath, to solve a dispute between his court members and stop the return of an old banished god. Without going into too much detail, by the end of the DLC, when you finally rescue the world one more time, Sheogorath himself congratulates you on your victory and announces that, in light of your success, he's decided to appoint you as his successor. So the Sheogorath that you see in Skyrim is actually the main character of Oblivion, after his transformation into the new Daedric Prince of Madness. And this new position suits them pretty well, considering all the crazy stuff they did in Elder Scrolls IV. Number 9. SEBILLE, Divinity Original Sin 2. SEBILLE, one of the original characters in the 2014 RPG Divinity 2 Original Sin, is an elven ex-slave who used to hunt down her kin for her master. Due to her past, she has a severe hatred for slavers and anyone taking away people's freedoms. However, there's also a different side to her. As you progress through her personal storyline, you learn that SEBILLE is destined to become her people's savior. Once you save an elven seer from SEBILLE's former masters, she reveals that SEBILLE is the first scion of the Mother Tree, the godlike protector of all elves. She then tells her to seek out the original Mother Tree to fulfill her destiny, and depending on how you handle the next few sections of the quest, SEBILLE might be able to become the new deity of her people. Now, the game implies that the Mother Tree might be more of an oppressive control freak than a benevolent guardian, which goes against SEBILLE's moral code, but on the other hand, you do get a sweet bonus for siding with the tree, and the position of a goddess is nothing to scoff at either. I mean, it'd definitely look great on your resume, wouldn't it? Number 8. Disciples, Amazing Cultivation Simulator. Amazing Cultivation Simulator is a RimWorld-esque strategy survival game set in a fictional fantasy world based on Chinese mythology and martial arts. Like RimWorld, it allows you to do some pretty wacky things as well, like reversing the age of your settlers, called the Disciples, or transforming poo into sentient human beings. But the primary objective of the game is to help your disciples achieve godhood through various martial arts techniques and meditation. The process is pretty complex but well developed, and complete with different methods of reaching ascension and a number of brutal challenges that test the might of your character on their journey. As you might imagine, turning into a god, it definitely comes with a number of benefits. On top of your character becoming ridiculously powerful, at the end of the ascension process, they also get to be recognized as an actual god in the game's pantheon. The game adds them to an active list of gods in the world and gives you a small statue of them for people to worship. In addition, it also generates a story of their divine journey based on your actions, so you can look up with pride at all of the gods that you have managed to produce. Number 7. Your alien species, SPORE. In SPORE, the galaxy-sized evolution simulator, you already played as the god of your own created species. You guide them through every step of their evolution, watching as they slowly develop their intelligence amidst constant death, famine, and warfare. I mean, nobody said that being a god was easy, but it can be fun to play as the divine guide of your species. But what if you wanted the species to become the gods of their own universe as well? Well, it's actually possible. You just have to reach the center of the SPORE galaxy. Both the main goal of the game and its greatest mystery, the center of the galaxy holds a secret that is capable of infusing any of your playable creatures with divine powers. In this case, a little spaceship by the name of Steve. Despite his small size and ordinary name, apologies to all the Steves out there, Steve is actually an entity responsible for creating new life in the entire universe. He's also a really nice guy, which is why when you meet him, he graciously bestows a portion of his godlike powers on your creatures and allows them to become the new creators of the universe with him. Haha, cheers Steve, nice one. Number 6. Immortal Ruler, Crusader Kings 2. The grand strategy game Crusader Kings 2 claims to be a historically accurate experience, but judging by all the cannibal popes and horse advisors that you run into in your average campaign, it's a bit hard to agree. Maybe they forgot to mention that part of medieval Europe in history class. The game features plenty of wacky and supernatural events that can happen to your character, and one of them can even make them immortal. The event is extremely rare and requires your character to undertake increasingly more difficult challenges, but if you manage to survive, the character will stop aging and you can play as them indefinitely. Also, if you manage to play your cards just right, they may even get a shot at becoming gods. Around 200 years into your immortal character's reign, they might get approached by an immortal horse god, which will challenge them for their right to immortality. If you manage to defeat the unneighborly immortal, you can claim his status for yourself and become recognized by your fellow immortals as an eternal god among humans, or for as long as you don't get randomly assassinated by a lord on the other end of the planet. Thank you, RNG. Number 5. ASHEN 1, Dark Souls 3. Considering how much your character in Dark Souls gets knocked about by every boss in the game, you wouldn't really think of them as a worthy godhood candidate. I mean, there are dozens of people better suited for the job, but maybe that perseverance in the face of stronger foes is exactly why your ASHEN 1 in Dark Souls 3 deserves to ascend to the status of a god, maybe even if it means destroying the entire world as you know it. They had a good run. In order to give the ASHEN 1 their due, you need to reach the secret third ending of the game, and in order to do this, you need to corrupt the Firekeeper and convince her that instead of restoring the world's flames like you're supposed to do, that perhaps stealing the flame and using it for yourself would be a much better idea. After you completed all the necessary steps and defeated the Soul of Cinder, an alternate final cutscene will play, showing your character absorbing the flame, finally ending the maddening cycle of the universe and bringing in a new age of man with you as its godlike creator and ruler. Well, aren't you a crafty little thief? Number 4. KALACH-CHA, Neverwinter Nights 2, Mask of the Betrayer. The 2006 role-playing game Neverwinter Nights 2 takes you on your very own Dungeons & Dragons adventure that begins with you living a peaceful life in a small village and ends with an end-of-the-world scenario that turns your character into the greatest hero of the land. You know, your standard D&D stuff. And the game managed to release multiple DLCs, and one of them, Mask of the Betrayer, actually allows you to continue your adventures after finishing the standard campaign, taking the zero to hero trope much further than it did before. Without spoiling too much, in this DLC, your character, KALACH-CHA, is struck with a spirit ether curse and has to travel to the realms of the death gods in order to find a cure. The ending of the DLC comes with 3 options, 2 of which have you become a god. In one, your character embraces their spirit-eating ways and amplifies their power to become a being capable of devouring even gods themselves. In the other, they team up with another death god and become a divine guardian alongside him. In either case, your character ends up with godlike powers and completely reshapes the realm. And to think, it all started off in a tiny little village. Number 3. Johnny Gat, Saints Row, Gat Out of Hell. Johnny Gat is one of Saints Row's OG characters. He's the gang's toughest, coldest, and most badass member, who served as the right-hand man of the Saints boss right up until his death in Saints Row III. Throughout the series, Johnny has managed to establish himself as a certified badass, capable of doing anything and killing anyone. This is why his untimely demise felt like a big betrayal of his character, but luckily the Saints Row developers decided to re-embrace this mistake with a spin-off game focused entirely on Johnny and his adventures through hell. Yes, in Saints Row Gat Out of Hell, you play as Johnny as he tries to defeat Satan and escape hell. In true Saints Row fashion, the game is filled with ridiculousness and over-the-top twists, one of which is a very special ending in which Johnny becomes the new king of hell after the previous one is disposed of. Given that his friend on Earth managed to become the US president and then conquer the galaxy, it feels only fitting that Johnny would get his own throne, even if it is inside the deepest pits of hell itself. Number 2. KRATOS, God of War. I mean, God of War, it's all there in the title. There's really nothing to explain here, right? Except you see that some people could argue that despite his title, Kratos isn't really a god. He's more of a god exterminator. Yes, he can kill off the entire Greek pantheon and then extend his personal vendetta to the divine families of the Norse variety, but in terms of powers and status, he's technically a demigod, the prodigal son of Zeus. Even after he kills Ares and takes over his throne, you don't really see him doing godly things, right? Or do we? With how detached Kratos is at the start of the 2018 release, it's easy to forget that at the end of the original God of War, Kratos did manage to become the titular god and did perform his godly duties. In the ending cutscene of the game, Gaia explains that after defeating all of the Greek gods, Kratos ascended to the throne of Ares and kept his position until the end of time, with many wars waged in his name. And the end of time part was repeated in the later games, but Kratos' godhood is still very much a thing. And number 1, Dark Urge, Baldur's Gate 3. And here are some big spoilers for Baldur's Gate 3's main story, so feel free to to tune out here, and I'll see you at the end if you don't want that spoiled. Now, seeing as the main plot of Baldur's Gate 3 revolves around the cult of a new startup god, the Absolute, it's only fair that your character would be able to give it some competition, and you certainly can. The god business is open to anyone who manages to defeat the 3 chosen of the Absolute and discover their secret plan of creating and controlling their new god, which, spoiler alert, turns out to be a huge magically infused elder brain. After that, you just have to be enough of an evil bastard to seize their power for yourself, and then you're free to become the new Absolute of your brainwashed tadpoled followers. However, if you want to up the villainy levels of your divine takeover while simultaneously turning into a living embodiment of an actual god, then you might want to complete this scheme as the original character Dark Urge. Again, major spoiler alert, the reason why Dark Urge experiences their, well, dark urges is because they are a spawn of the god of murder, Baal. In the final mission in the game, your Dark Urge gets to usurp the throne of the Absolute like the other characters, but then they also get the option to do it by embracing the awesome power of their murder daddy and turning into a supercharged avatar of Baal himself with the Elder Brain under their exclusive command. And just like that, the world is your oyster. A bloody, messy, gut-spilling oyster. Nice. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 video game protagonists so powerful they became gods. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. If you want to follow me in the meantime, you can go over to the Future Game Show, or FGS, where I'm doing all of my gaming content going forward, and it'd be great to see you over there. Hope you're treating yourself well, my friend, with love and respect, because you bloody well deserve the best, alright? And do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. As always, I've been Jules, you have been awesome, never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.